Buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a social media storm that's happening right now.
It really is fascinating how a potential TikTok ban in the
Mm.
U.S. is shaking things up this month.
Seriously. Like a global game of musical chairs with everyone scrambling to find their new favorite spot online, and one destination is at the top of the charts, Xiaohongshu.
Xiaohongshu, yeah.
Pronounced, I think, Xiaohongshu.
That's a Xiaohongshu.
Also called Red.
Yeah, a lot of people just call it red.
Okay, Red. So we've got a whole stack of sources here, some in English, some in Chinese, everything from like the Associated Press and tech in Asia, even some interesting chatter on Reddit. And they're all painting this picture of where these like digital refugees are heading and what it means for all of us.
Right, in Xiaohongshu, it's like stepping into a different world completely.
Okay.
Imagine Instagram and Pinterest had a baby,
Okay.
but with this like uniquely Chinese twist.
Interesting.
It's all about lifestyle, fashion, beauty, those things.
Okay.
And it's attracting a pretty specific crowd, mostly young women.
Yeah, we've got this comparison table here, and the differences between TikTok and Xiaohongshu are pretty wild.
Yeah.
TikTok is, king of the short videos, entertainment, wide range at ages.
Hmm.
But Xiaohongshu is this really interesting mix of pictures, short videos, and a big focus on actually buying stuff.
It's true. And it's not just a simple, like, swap. Xiaohongshu isn't just another TikTok.
Right.
This wave of American users coming in, it could completely change the platform. Imagine these cultures clashing, different styles, different expectations.
Right.
It's like adding a shot of espresso to a matcha latte. You're going to get a whole new drink.
So why are people fleeing TikTok in the first place?
Well, the big one is this deadline, January 19th.
Right, just a few days away.
Yeah, TikTok has to separate from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance,
Right, ByteDance.
or face a potential U.S. ban.
Wow, and this legislation they're talking about, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. It's pretty serious stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. It raises all sorts of concerns about data privacy and potential Chinese government influence.
Mm-hmm. So it's like,
You love your favorite coffee shop,
yeah,
but then you find out they're sharing all your personal info without asking.
right,
Makes you think twice, right?
definitely.
And this legislation, it doesn't mess around. Any foreign-owned social media app with over 1 million active U.S. users is a target.
Wow, so it really begs the question, what happens when international politics get mixed up with our favorite apps?
It's a tough one.
Yeah. It's crazy to think we might actually see American users moving from one Chinese-owned app to another.
Yeah.
And get this, ByteDance also owns another app called Lemonade.
Lemonade?
That's seeing a huge jump in downloads, too.
So is this just a knee-jerk reaction, or are we seeing like a bigger shift happening globally,
Yeah, are more Chinese apps going to become popular here?
And what does this say about the power of users to actually shape the digital world?
It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just going to sit back and take it. We have a voice.
Exactly. It shows how technology can connect people across borders in ways we never even imagined.
And speaking of unexpected connections, our sources have picked up on this heartwarming trend. Chinese users on Xiaohongshu are going out of their way to help these American newcomers, even with things like English homework.
Isn't that amazing? It just shows you, at the end of the day, beyond all the algorithms and data concerns, it's real people looking for connection and shared experiences.
It's pretty inspiring, actually. So we've unpacked the who, the where, and the why of this TikTok migration.
We have.
But to really understand what's at play here, we need to look at the engine behind these platforms, the algorithms.
But yes, the algorithms, the secret sauce of social media, they control everything you see, who you connect with, your whole experience online.
And TikTok and Xiaohongshu, their algorithms are fundamentally different.
You could say that again.
TikTok's For You page, it's like a magic trick, constantly pulling new stuff out of a hat to keep you hooked.
It's incredibly effective at finding things you'll enjoy, but some argue it creates this filter bubble, limiting your exposure to different viewpoints.
Right, Xiaohongshu is different. It's like walking into a curated art gallery.
Yes.
Their algorithm prioritizes content that's beautiful, informative, and aligned with your specific interests.
It's less about instant gratification and more about this sense of discovery and community.
It makes you wonder, in a world of constant information overload, is this curated content a breath of fresh air or just another way to control what we see?
That is the question, isn't it?
Definitely a question we're thinking about, but before we go too deep down that rabbit hole, let's look at the potential impact this migration could have on both platforms.
Okay.
For TikTok, losing a big chunk of its U.S. users, that could mean a big hit to their revenue and growth.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot. Comply with U.S. regulations or risk losing a huge market.
Right, and for Xiaohongshu, they're looking at explosive growth, but with that comes a lot of responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll be under a microscope, and they'll need to navigate these cultural differences if they want to succeed with American users.
For sure. And what about the users themselves? Will this lead to a richer, more diverse online experience, or will it create new echo chambers and cultural divides?
It's a giant social experiment, and we're all part of it whether we realize it or not.
We are.
So let's bring in the experts, the people studying these trends, trying to make sense of it all. They've got some valuable insights into what this could all mean in the long run.
Yes, some experts are cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
They see this as a good sign, a healthy shift in the tech landscape.
Interesting.
They believe American users are more open to trying new things, especially if those new things offer a unique experience or address concerns like data privacy.
So they're basically saying, we've got options now, and we're not afraid to use them.
Exactly. And
Right.
these experts also point out that younger generations, the ones who grew up with the internet, they're not as worried about data privacy, and they're more open to using foreign apps.
That makes sense.
This could have a huge impact on how future regulations are shaped.
It makes you wonder if lawmakers are really in touch with how younger people are actually using technology.
It does,
Hmm.
but not everyone's so optimistic.
Ah,
Some experts think this whole move to Xiaohongshu is just temporary.
okay.
Driven by fear of the TikTok ban, they say Xiaohongshu is missing some key features to be successful long-term.
Like what?
Well, for example, they don't have a good way for creators to make money.
Right.
TikTok's done an incredible job of letting creators earn a living, and that's a big draw for users.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how Xiaohongshu can compete if creators can't get paid.
Exactly, and then there's the language barrier. Most of Xiaohongshu isn't Chinese.
Right.
That could limit its appeal to a wider American audience.
These skeptics, they think once things settle down, we'll go back to normal.
Yeah, TikTok will either adapt or disappear, and American users will go back to the platforms they're used to.
But even if that happens, this whole situation has exposed some cracks in the system. It's forced us to ask some uncomfortable questions about data privacy, censorship, the role of foreign companies in our online lives, and these questions aren't going away anytime soon.
They're not. This is about more than just picking an app.
Right.
It's about making informed decisions about where we spend our time online and who we trust with our data.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to shape the digital world we want to live in.
And it's about remembering that even in the middle of all these complex challenges, human connection and the desire to share experiences, those are powerful forces. Welcome back to our deep dive into this fascinating world of, social media migrations.
Yeah, last time we were talking about TikTok possibly getting banned and users flocking to Xiaohongshu or Red.
Red.
But it feels like we only scratched the surface of how these algorithms really work.
Yeah, those algorithms, they're like the puppet masters behind the scenes,
Yeah.
shaping our online experience in ways we don't even realize.
So let's pull back the curtain, see what makes Xiaohongshu's algorithm tick. Our sources suggest it's less about that instant gratification you get on other platforms and more about cultivating a sense of discovery and community.
Yeah, it's a really interesting contrast to TikTok's For You page, which
Yeah.
is designed to keep you scrolling forever with that hyper-personalized content.
Right.
Xiaohongshu seems to prioritize content that's aesthetically pleasing, informative, and aligns with your specific interests, even if it's not the most viral thing out there.
That's a good point. It's like they're trying to create a more thoughtful experience rather than just throwing everything at you and seeing what sticks.
Exactly. They're carefully selecting content that they believe will resonate with you on a deeper level.
It's like the difference between flipping through a gossip magazine and browsing a curated art exhibit.
You got it.
I see what you mean. Xiaohongshu feels more intentional.
Precisely. And this approach seems to be working. They're attracting a loyal following of users who are tired of the noise and chaos of other platforms.
Yeah.
They want a space where they can discover new things, connect with like-minded people, and have meaningful conversations.
It makes you wonder if this shift toward curated content is a sign of things to come. Are we moving away from the era of endless scrolling and algorithmic rabbit holes?
It's a fascinating question. Maybe users are becoming more discerning, more aware of how their time and attention are being manipulated.
Maybe we're craving a more mindful approach to social media, one that nourishes our minds and souls rather than just draining our batteries.
And Xiaohongshu seems to be tapping into that desire they're offering. a digital sanctuary, a space where you can escape the noise and rediscover the joy of exploration and connection.
Okay, but let's not sugarcoat things. There are potential downsides to this curated approach as well.
You're right. Some critics argue that this kind of algorithmic filtering can create echo chambers, limiting our exposure to different viewpoints and reinforcing our existing biases.
It's a valid concern if we're only seeing content that aligns with our beliefs. Are we missing out on opportunities to broaden our perspectives?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance. On one hand, we want algorithms to help us filter the overwhelming amount of information online, but on the other hand, we don't want to get trapped in filter bubbles that limit our understanding of the world.
So how do we find that balance? How do we make sure these algorithms are serving us, not manipulating us?
That's the million-dollar question. Researchers, policymakers, tech companies are all grappling with it right now. There's no easy answer.
Right.
But as users, we can be more aware of how these algorithms work and how they might be influencing us.
We can be more proactive about seeking out diverse perspectives, challenging our own biases, and engaging in critical thinking.
Exactly. We can't just passively consume whatever the algorithm feeds us. We need to be active participants, shaping our own online experiences.
And this brings us back to the cultural exchange aspect of this migration. What happens when you have American users accustomed to a certain style of social media interacting with a Chinese platform with its own cultural norms?
It's a fascinating clash of cultures and expectations.
Will American users embrace Xiaohongshu's unique features, or will they try to reshape the platform?
It's like watching two different species trying to coexist. Will they adapt to each other, or will one dominate?
And how will Chinese users respond to this influx of newcomers? Will they be welcoming, or will there be a clash?
These are questions we can't answer for sure, but
Yeah.
we can look for clues in the interactions that are already happening.
Our sources mention that some American users are struggling to navigate the platform, finding the language barrier and cultural differences to be a challenge.
It's not a seamless transition. It takes a willingness to adapt, to learn, and to appreciate different ways of doing things.
But there are also really heartwarming examples of cross-cultural collaboration. We talked about Chinese users helping Americans with their English homework.
Right. And there are also instances of American users sharing their perspectives and insights, with Chinese users fostering mutual learning and respect.
It's a good reminder that even in the midst of cultural differences and political tensions, human connection and the desire to learn from each other can win out.
It's a little glimmer of hope in a world that often feels divided.
Okay, we've explored the good stuff, but let's not shy away from the potential downsides. There are valid concerns about data privacy censorship and the potential for these platforms to be used for propaganda.
You're absolutely right. We can't just blindly embrace new technology without thinking about the risks, especially when we're talking about platforms based in countries with different political systems and values than our own.
Exactly. We need to be critical thinkers. We need to be aware of how our data is being used.
And we need to be mindful of the potential for these platforms to spread misinformation or reinforce existing biases.
It's a balancing act, embracing the potential for connection and innovation while also staying alert to the risks.
It's a challenge we'll keep facing as technology evolves and our world becomes more and more interconnected.
It's a challenge worth facing because the stakes are high. The future of social media, the relationship between the US and China, the very fabric of our interconnected world, it's all on the line.
And the choices we make today as users, as citizens, as human beings, will determine what tomorrow looks like.
So let's be mindful, let's be engaged, and let's be part of the solution.
Let's build a digital future that's innovative and responsible, connected and respectful.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the big picture, but let's zoom in on some of the specific features that make Xiaohongshu so unique.
I like it. It's time to unpack what's drawing in all these users.
Our sources describe it as a blend of Instagram and Pinterest, but I think it's even more than that.
It's got its own vibe, a unique blend of Eastern and Western influences, aspirational yet relatable, stylish yet down to earth.
One thing that really stands out is the focus on user-generated content.
Absolutely. Xiaohongshu is all about real people sharing their experiences, their recommendations, their style, their lives. It's not about perfect Instagram feeds or highly produced TikTok videos.
Right.
It's raw, authentic content that feels genuine and relatable.
It's a nice change from the manufactured perfection you see on other platforms.
And this authenticity is exactly what seems to be attracting so many Americans.
They're tired of the pressure to be perfect, the constant comparison game, the feeling that they're not good enough.
Xiaohongshu gives them a space to be themselves, connect with people who get them, and discover new products and experiences without feeling like they're being bombarded with ads.
It's like a breath of fresh air.
It's tapping into a desire for connection and meaning in a digital world that often feels superficial.
Now, let's talk about some of Xiaohongshu's features. One thing that sets it apart is its focus on e-commerce.
Yeah, Xiaohongshu isn't just a place to browse and chat. You can actually buy and sell stuff right there.
It's all built in so you can discover new products, read reviews, and make purchases without ever leaving the app.
And because the content is so user-generated, it feels less like advertising and more like recommendations from friends,
It's a really smart strategy, and it's clearly working.
especially with how much we're bombarded with ads everywhere else. Xiaohongshu's approach feels more genuine.
Another interesting feature is the focus on long-form content.
Right, TikTok is all about those short videos, but Xiaohongshu encourages users to create more in-depth stuff like blog posts, reviews, tutorials,
It's a platform where you can really dive into a topic, learn from experts, and share what you know.
and that format appeals to people who are looking for more than just entertainment. They want to learn, they want to grow.
So we have a platform that's authentic, community-driven, e-commerce focused, and values long-form content. It's a unique mix.
It is, and it's resonating with people all over the world.
Yeah.
It reminds us that there's no one right way to do social media.
Different platforms for different needs.
Exactly, and Xiaohongshu has found its niche.
It'll be interesting to see how it evolves as more Americans join.
Will it keep its unique character, or will it become more homogenized?
Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, this is a story worth following.
Absolutely. The great TikTok migration of 2025, it's a story about technology culture and how we connect with each other in this digital age.
And the story's not over yet. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore what this all means for the future of social media, the relationship between the US and China, and the future of our interconnected world.
It's going to be epic.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've explored the what and the why of this whole TikTok migration, but now for the grand finale, it's time for the so what?
The big question, right?
Exactly. What does this all mean? What are the bigger implications of this shift?
What does it tell us about the future of social media, the relationship between the US and China, even our interconnected world?
Yeah, let's start with the future of social media. Could this migration signal a move away from the dominance of American platforms? I mean, Jiangshu's growth is hard to ignore.
It definitely shows that things are changing.
Mm.
American users seem more open to trying new things, especially if those new things offer something different or address concerns they have with the current platforms.
Like they're saying, hey, we have options now and we're not afraid to use them.
Exactly. And data privacy has been a huge factor in this migration, and that's not going away anytime soon.
Right.
If Chinese apps can position themselves as more privacy conscious, it could give them a big advantage.
But it's not just about privacy. Xiaohongshu's success also shows a growing desire for different online experiences, ones that are less about chasing trends and more about authenticity, connection, and genuine discovery.
It's like users are craving a more curated experience online. They're tired of the endless scroll and want platforms that connect with their values on a deeper level.
So maybe the future of social media is more fragmented with different platforms for specific niches and interests.
Like the evolution of television, we went from a few channels to a ton of cable and streaming options. Social media could be heading in the same direction.
And that could be a good thing. It could lead to more focused communities, less information overload, maybe even fewer echo chambers.
But it also raises questions about how we navigate this more complex digital landscape. How do we find the right communities and content without getting lost?
That's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to be more intentional about how we spend our time online.
Absolutely. It's about taking control of our digital lives and shaping the online world we want.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit and think about the US-China relationship. This migration is happening at a time of growing tension between the two countries.
It reminds us that the digital world isn't separate from geopolitics. The potential TikTok ban, driven by national security concerns and fears of Chinese influence, is a perfect example.
It makes you wonder what kind of ripple effects this will have on the tech industry, the flow of information, even cultural exchange between the two countries.
But here's the interesting part. While the U.S. government is trying to limit the influence of Chinese apps, American users are kind of defying that by flocking to those very platforms.
It's like a paradox. It shows that the relationship between the two countries is more complicated than it seems.
There's competition and distrust, but also a growing cultural exchange happening online. American users are experiencing Chinese culture through platforms like Xiaohongshu, and Chinese users are encountering American perspectives.
It's creating these unexpected chances for dialogue and understanding, even with political disagreements.
It reminds us that technology can sometimes go beyond political boundaries and connect people in unexpected ways.
Okay, one last big leap outward. What does this migration mean for our interconnected world?
This situation shows how technology is changing everything. Our lives, our relationships, our understanding of the world. It's blurring borders, connecting us in new ways, and creating both incredible opportunities and challenges.
We're at a crossroads, and the decisions we make now will have a lasting impact.
This story is still being written, and we're all part of it.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage you, dear listener, to be curious, stay informed, and be an active participant, explore new platforms, challenge your assumptions, and engage in thoughtful conversations.
And never underestimate the power of human connection, even online. By choosing wisely and engaging thoughtfully, we can create a digital future that's innovative and responsible, connected, and respectful.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.